Welcome. Today I'll show you the step-by-step of painting this model, building up layers of details with easy to follow techniques. Starting with white armor, I selected a bluish grey and an off-white, looking for a cold tone to contrast with the blood effect I'll do by the end. Two thin coats of blue-grey were applied to achieve a solid base coat to build up the white from. Whether you use a brush or an airbrush for speed, it doesn't matter if any paint gets on the other details. Last time I built up the color with a sponge. This time I just applied the off-white in thin layers, not really caring about being tidy or not. It'll take around 3 layers to build up the opacity. I am trying to sketch volumes and shapes very roughly. Since the paint is diluted, the brush marks will mostly blend as I build up the layers, but not entirely. Though, with what I'll be doing later, that won't be a problem. Your first couple of layers will make your model look a bit chalky, but just continue building up the color. Once an almost solid white is achieved on the main volumes, I'll move on to shading. Previously, I showed how to do it with acrylics and a pin wash, which you can see in the video linked above. This time, to do something different, I decided to use oils. This bluish grey was left in a piece of cardboard to have its excess oil be absorbed, before diluting it on my metallic cup. Just a little to have it flow better. I then covered all the armor and left it to the side till I saw the solvent had evaporated. This took around 30 to 40 minutes and I could tell the oil had lost a lot of its sheen. From there I soaked my brush in solvent and by dabbing it I reactivated the paint and had it flow to the recesses. Due to the weight, the oil was able to get a grip on the model, so it was up to me how much I wanted to remove. Be mindful of paint pulling near the feet, which you can easily snatch with your brush after cleaning it on a paper towel. After drying overnight, I was left with a nice lining on the edges plus a fade, and not much tinting on the main surface. Yet the tinting was still there. This allowed me to go back to the off-white and through stippling add some texture and highlights. Paint is diluted with water in equal amounts and you can see how easy this is. I'm just poking at it with an old brush, trying to avoid the deep shadows. Between this and the light layer of oil, any brushstrokes that were present will become unperceivable. I then gave chipping a try. However, I'm not completely satisfied with this first attempt. A pinch of water was used to dilute dark brown. This is dark grass from Vallejo, very similar to Rhinox hide from Citadel. Using a sponge, I first focused on the parts where more damage would occur, like the knees and edges. In the end, I applied a bit everywhere. You'll also see I did some hand-painted scratches on the chest. This was then given some three-dimensionality with pure white, by following the bottom half of the bigger chips and painting a line. I do think that the pure white was too big of a jump in color, and an ivory would have worked better. This doesn't have to be done everywhere. I kept to the bigger chips which caught my attention, and where many tiny chips were present, I just did some selective dots under some of them. I do think the effect looks better on some places than on others, so for next time I'll see how I can improve on it for a more consistent result. With the armor done, I base coated the other elements of the model. They were all shaded using the same dark brown from the chipping, but diluted in a 2-to-1 mix. Like I often say, I make use of diluted acrylics to appeal to beginners who are just starting on the hobby. If you already bought yourself some washes, then this is the time to use them. Just for the trim, I went back to the bronze color and brought back the shine by gently dry brushing and doing some edge highlights with the side of my brush. We don't want our brush to be loaded with much paint, just enough so it would catch those red surfaces and edges, while leaving the brown wash visible. Any other details are unimportant and don't require highlighting, since the attention of the viewer will be driven elsewhere. I then did the basing with a couple of aquarium rocks and sand. and gave color to it and the bottom of the legs with some pigments, not only to enhance the dirtiness but also to better integrate the model to the base. From here, the only thing left to do was to apply the blood effects. I first created the base of sun dripping using fishing line. This was stuck in place with superglue and moved around to make sure it was properly pointing downwards. For the effect, I'm using Blood for the Blood God by Citadel. This was first mixed with a pinch of black ink to add a bit of tone variety, before being applied on the chainsword with a very old brush which had its strands very split up. This was perfect to get a true random pattern. To finish up, I added a bit of water to the effect paint, and by flickering my brush against a toothpick I created droplets for a fresh battle look. Be careful of not having other models laying close by, since paint will fly out everywhere. For a more stylish look, I'm focusing on the side of the model holding the chain axe. With that, the model was finished. I hope the techniques I went over are of use to you. If you'd like to see me paint other Space Marine legions, do let me know in the comments.